One of the biggest mistakes that new artists make is trying to learn everything at once. They try to become masters at every single style instead of picking one and then mastering it. The reality is, when you're a one-person band, you only have so much time to try to perfect the things you're working on. That's why there's so many artists that's been tattooing for 20 years but are still doing tattoos in the kitchen for $20 a pop. If you don't want to be that guy, I suggest you stick with one style when you're starting. But what style should you start off with? In this video, we're going to go through the pros and cons of each style you could get into so you could pick. And if you already have a ton of drawing experience, then the last one's for you. So the first one we're going to get into is traditional tattooing. When you think of tattooing, traditional probably is the first thing that comes to mind. Usually the first thing that people try to learn when it comes to tattooing, just because it teaches you line work, shading, color packing, pretty much all the fundamentals that you need to be able to tattoo. The pros are going to be that it's easy to learn to draw. It's fairly simple. You could tattoo it very fast. I remember when I was first starting out tattooing, I was able to do multiple traditional tattoos in a day, and you could make quite a bit of money doing that as well. And with doing this, you could build up a ton of clientele very quickly. Another reason is it's been around for a very long time, and it's not going out of style yet, and I don't think it'll ever go out of style. Also, the biggest thing with this is it's able to build up all of the things that you need to know to tattoo. It teaches you how to do flawless line work, come out with a clean tattoo with your shading, and also working with color and getting down with all of the things you need to know to create a great tattoo. You're also able to save money. So with traditional, you're dealing with yellows, reds, browns, greens, blue, just a basic color set that you need in order to do traditional. Also, when it comes to needle selections, you're going to be using like 9 traditional liners, 11 traditional liners, maybe sometimes a 14. And with mags, you're mainly going to be using 15 curve mags or 15 standards when you're doing the tattoo process. So you don't have to spend a ton of money trying to get a ton of different styles of cartridges or needle bars in order to do these tattoos. Another big point is they age really well. So with the natural process of healing with tattooing, ink expands underneath the skin, colors are going to fade before the black and the gray wash shading. So with that, the way you're putting in your heavy black in there with the shading, it's going to heal up and age really well through time. You'll still be able to tell what it is 10 years down the road. Now, with every style, there's going to be cons involved as well. With traditional specifically, the cons are going to be everything kind of looks the same. There's only so many ways you could do an eagle before they all start to kind of blend together and look about the same. Another thing is people can steal your work and very easily get away with it. Like I said, it's been around forever, so pretty much every way an eagle has been drawn, it has been done. There's no way to make it very unique or a way to where like people were able to see your work and be like, oh, this was done by this artist, because trad is just a style that so many people have done for a very long time that it's really hard to try to make a name for yourself specifically with traditional. The next is probably my biggest, where I wanted to move out of doing traditional tattoos, was it gets very repetitive. You are doing the exact same thing over and over again that it never really feels new, and eventually you get to a point to where you feel burnt out and kind of lose creativity a little bit. Now, there's a lot of traditional tattooers out there that still use coil machines, because it is easier to use a coil machine for line work, and that's pretty much the only advantage I'd give a coil machine over a rotary. But if you're able to learn from a rotary and learn to use it, you could do perfectly clean line work and do traditional with a rotary, no problem. The other downsides of using a traditional machine is going to be you're going to build up arthritis in your hand way faster. Also get this money bump on your finger from just the weight of the machine and the vibrations. Just from the sound, eventually it'll cause issues with your hearing. That's one thing that people don't really think about, because you're not noticing it day in, day out of doing it, but eventually it is going to affect your hearing from being so close on the one side. You'll also find yourself having to tell people that their idea is stupid in a nice way, or telling them that the design has to be bigger or have thicker lines in order to have it come out looking correctly. Now, this is something that you might find with every style, but with traditional, you know, it is really important to get it big enough so it'll hold up through time and the lines won't just completely blend together. So this is one of those things to where obviously you don't tell them that their design sucks or their design just isn't going to work. You have to think about how you're going to say these things so you don't come out looking like an asshole. So for the next one, we're getting into Japanese style tattooing. This is one that I really actually enjoy doing because there's a lot of different things that you could do with it. The pros are going to be, usually the pieces are really big. You're working on full back pieces, full sleeves, the full chest. You know, you don't really do a traditional style Japanese piece on a small design. So you'll be working on these clients for full day sessions, and obviously it's going to make quite a bit of money for you as well. You'll also get to do a ton of fun tattoos. You'll be able to do these bigger designs that show truly your artistic ability to be able to tattoo. Also, if you're doing 8-hour sessions, 5 days a week, your bank account is going to look thick, which obviously no one's upset about, especially with today's economy. There's also going to be less competition because at the end of the day, it's hard to draw. It's hard to come up with concepts on the Japanese style if you're not put into that or build up a fundamental in the way of doing it. So not a lot of people do it, so there'll be less competition. The cons are going to be, in this style, you're going to be seeing a lot of cover-up tattoos about, you know, people that got something simple that they want covered up with a huge dragon or a full design to be able to cover this up. Now, this is good for this style, so it's kind of a con and a pro at the same time. Obviously, cover-ups cost more money, but along with that, it is harder to draw. It's harder to come up with a design that does cover it, but with this style, you know, they're usually really big, which helps out a ton. And also, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It takes a really long time to design a tattoo like this that looks right on the body. So just remember that whenever you're wanting to get into it, that it takes quite a bit of time to learn to draw to this style and have it look correct, because you want it to flow with the type, the style, and also the part of the body that you're doing. You don't want to just slap on a design like it's trad. If you have a dragon, you want it to wrap around the arm, kind of help go with the muscles and the structure of the body part. So you need to learn how the body naturally flows along with drawing. Now let's get on to Neotrad. This is definitely one of my most favorites on this whole list of things that I do because I'm able to use really fun colors. I can make designs that flow really, really well with the body. So I really enjoy this style when it comes to actually drawing. This is like the style that I naturally kind of am drawn to with my drawing style. So with that, the biggest pros with Neotraditional are going to be there's a lot of leeway with the things you're able to do. So the drawings are nice and big. You could really make full sleeves with a specific design. So let's say you're doing a lady face with a snake. Instead of just doing a design this big, you could make a full sleeve with that idea, just as long as you kind of have it flow naturally with the body. There's also a lot of brutal imagery, so you could put swords through people's heads or add a lot of blood splatter, and it looks really, really cool as a tattoo. Another big plus is you could use real life images to use as references for your design. So if I'm drawing a Neotraditional leopard head, I could pull up an actual image of a leopard, build up my thicker lines and my detailed lines, and be able to make a stencil specifically from a live picture, which helps with drawing time and also understanding the basic kind of dimensions of animal or even a person's face to be able to make your designs look better. Also, your line work will become really good. If you're focusing on Neotraditional, you're going to work with thick liners and also very thin liners. So you're going to be able to really do anything if you're focusing on this style to be able to learn, because there's a lot of shading involved, there's color packing. You're not only using thick liners, but you're also using your 3-round liners for all your detailed stuff, like little areas on the face or detailed areas on a leopard if you're working on that. So you pretty much get the full horizon of tattooing, which also turns into a con. You need to learn a lot more and be more proficient at using all of these tools whenever you're getting into this style. It can be a lot harder to learn than traditional. Another con is going to be that there is a lot of competition out there. There's trained artists that have been doing art their whole lives that are getting into this style, being able to use color theory and all sorts of other stuff to make these beautiful designs. So there's quite a bit of competition with this style. Also, it's going to be the clients that you get. This is a style that not a lot of people really enjoy. Now, you'll find your certain clientele, but it'll take a while to kind of build up that foundation of clients to be able to do this for a living. You'll see that not a ton of the older generation is going to want neo-traditional. Now, I don't say that for everyone out there. I'm just stating from what I've seen in the tattoo industry, that is what I could see. Next on our list is new school. So this is going to be the style that you see with big eyes, crazy colors, and looks a little cartoony. If you've ever seen it, you'll know it immediately. Pros are going to be, you get to draw every day because you'll have to build up that fundamental idea of how to draw for this because it's completely different than any other style that you see. Another pro is going to be, it's going to be 100% obvious if someone has stolen your tattoo idea, something that you drew, because everything is drawn for the client. And you're not held to structural ideas like you are in neo-traditional. So let's say you're drawing a face. You could pull up a reference, pretty much stencil that reference, add lines, add your detailed lines, and tattoo that. With new school, you're going to have to draw the proportions weird to have it flow with the body or look super crazy, like blow up the eyes and have it look that style, like that really cartoony and bright. The cons are going to be, you have to be a great artist to be able to pull off this style. It's not something that you could learn overnight or just be able to just pick up a tattoo machine and draw one of these. It's something that takes years and years to kind of build up to be able to pull off something like this. In order to draw this, you need to understand a ton of different things like values, vantage points, perspective, tones, and so much more. So there's a ton that goes into it. This is one of those things that you absolutely cannot fake. If you can't draw this, you're just not going to be able to do it. Another con is not a ton of people like this. It's not something that you're going to see all of the time because it has a very niche kind of clientele that if it's what you do for a living, you can absolutely build up the clients that you need to make this happen, but it is going to be hard. Because it uses super bright colors, unfortunately with a natural process of healing, nothing we could do about it, it's going to fade a lot faster. And the last is going to be every client that you have booked with you, you're going to have to draw their design. Even if you have a day to where you don't want to, no matter what, you have to draw their tattoo, which isn't for everyone. Now I saved the best for last. Now it comes to drawing, neo-traditional is kind of one of my favorites, but when it comes to the actual tattooing process, that is going to be realism. And it's also the best for people that already have the foundation of drawing experience. Pros are going to be that you don't have to draw anything. You are taking specific designs and putting them together in a way that flows naturally with the body to create your tattoo design. So you're not going to be spending hours coming up with your own perfectly rendered drawing for a tattoo. You just pull images off of Pinterest, specific designs of real pictures, make them black and gray, and put them on Procreate. This also will make you a ton of money. If you could get good at it, you are working on a specific design for a full day. It's not something you could breeze through like some of the other styles on here. It takes a ton of time to be able to complete all the detail that you need in order to do hair or eyes or noses. Pretty much the full design is going to take time and it builds up with layers. It's not something you just blast in there and move on. You're very lightly going over the skin, not to overwork it, and build up those tones. Also, this is one style that everyone seems to like, even if they like other styles as well. People just like realism. So it's something that you're gonna be able to be booked up for weeks or months and going to make a ton of money in your career getting into realism. Also, it is the most respected style in the industry. If you are really good at realism, it's the first that gets sponsorships from places because it's hard to do. Cons are going to be sometimes you could grow so fast with this style that could be a bit overwhelming. If you could get good at this and tattoo a couple of clients and post that on your Instagram, this can blow up overnight. If you were able to do it correctly, you could get booked out for months and then you start to feel overwhelmed. You feel like you can't take a sick day. You can't go on vacation because you have all this clientele and you're not used to being this busy and making this much money. So you try to do your best to make all of it happen and then you get burnt out. The other con is if you don't do it right, it could fade very easily. The way the black and gray goes into the skin, it's always going to be darker whenever you first put it in, and then through healing it's going to lighten up. So if you don't have the knowledge on what each gray wash does with the healing process, it could completely mess up the tattoo, and you're gonna have to keep doing touch-ups on it because it's going to fade. So these are all things that are super important to know if you're getting into realism. Realism is by far the most profitable style you could get into with tattooing. It's also one of the hardest because there's so much things that you need to learn. And also so many things that could go wrong in the tattooing process. That is, until now. Over the past few months, I've been working on a new course called Simplified Realism. Inside, it will show you a beginner-friendly approach on how to complete realism designs, even if you're getting first started. Hit the link in the description to check it out, and I'll see you in the next video.